The extract method technique helps us make a separate method from a block of code that we can use again. Picture a big function or method that does many operations or calculations. Sometimes we might see a part of the code that can be taken out and turned into its own method. That's when we use the extract method technique. When we find a piece of code that does something specific and has a clear purpose, we can take it out and put it in its own method. Then, instead of using the original code directly, we can call that method to perform the same task. Hello everyone, welcome back. Okay, the extract method technique lies under the code extraction category in our refactoring techniques diagram. To use this technique, we take a bunch of statements in a method and move them to a new method. The main goal of this technique is to make smaller methods that do specific tasks. By doing this, we make our code easier to understand. Alright, to find opportunities for using the extract method technique, we look for blocks of code in a method that do a specific task. For example, in the replace step with query lecture, we noticed a statement that multiplied the quantity of a product by its price. This was a specific task, so we made it into a separate method with a clear name. We also improved code readability by extracting the block responsible for discount and tax calculations. We named the new methods calculate discount and calculate tax. This made the code easier to understand and maintain. As you can see, these extractions simplify the understanding of the code's logic. Additionally, the extracted methods can be used in other parts of the code. Instead of repeating the price, discount, or tax calculations, we can simply call the respective method. This makes the code more reusable, reduces redundancy, and ensures consistency throughout. In different situations, we can also use techniques like separate query for a modifier and split temporary variable to apply the extract method technique. We covered all these techniques in detail in the previous lectures. Alright, now let's see how we can use this technique step by step. Step 1 is to find a block of code in the method that does a specific task on its own. For example, in this case, we have a block of code that calculates the discount. Next, we need to take that specific code and create a new method for it with a clear name. The third step is to pass any required inputs to the new method as parameters and get any outputs as return values. Lastly, instead of using the original code we removed, we call the new method we created. Alright, let's look at another example. In this case, the code inside the if statement determines if an order can be processed. To make our code reusable and easier to understand, we can extract it into a separate method. As a second step, we cut this code and create a new method for it. Since this code checks if the order can be processed, we give the method a descriptive name. For the next step, we need to see if the method requires any parameters. In this case, the method needs an order as input to do its task. The last step is to call the new method instead of using the removed code. As you can see, this simple change improves code readability and makes it easier to understand. Additionally, if there are other parts where we need to check if the order can be processed, we can reuse this method. For example, before creating the invoice, we can check if the order is valid or not. This avoids duplicating code and makes our code easier to maintain. Okay, done. See you soon.